Hello and welcome back to Inquisitor Martyr. Last time we ended up struggling really hard on the Void Crusade, so we're just gonna run these two and get the mission, get the whole crusade over. Gonna have to just call it. We don't have the damage, we don't have the gear, we don't have the build to survive any further with any level of safety, I'd say. We got a 10% boost from the last mission to fighting Eldar, so we're gonna have to leverage that. Actually, just remembered, I actually have a passive to put a point into. No, man. Sometimes I'm honestly contemplating just dumping into the max HP, but I feel like it's kind of a waste. I mean, no, that's not even that good. It's kind of the kicker. None of these abilities are that great. Like, yeah, you could chain 1 suppression for every 10 HP gained with 1 HP, 1.5 HP for every 10 suppression. But, I mean, that's a lot of points to pour in, and as it stands, I don't think my build's really gonna have the space for it. I wish there was a tree just dedicated to warp damage, because this isn't helping. I mean, 5% warp damage bonus makes some sense. And all damage is converted to warp damage after a hit taken for a second. Hang on. Thinking out loud here. That's almost worthwhile. Because I have 34% warp resist. Anything give me warp resist? Yeah, resilience. So, I think I can leverage this. Because eventually I'll hit 25. So I'll have 25 resist built in. I might be able to do something with this and convert all damage to warp. I don't have to care as much about my other resists, and if I really wanted to, if I have it anywhere, I could, physical resistance, I could just convert that into warp resist, and eventually kind of build that up, and rely on that, I guess? I mean, I don't know. It has potential, but I don't know how much potential. Could get more radius for my AoE abilities, but I feel like that's not as needed as much. We'll go focused aim. You know, get me some more range damage. I think that's gonna help a bit. I really hope this stuff is working right. I wish I could see, breakdowns of stats. So I could see exactly, like, range damage. Amount of additional damage caused with range skills. Okay, let's, I guess, break this down here. It's a ranged ability, long range, so I take it that I'm getting bonuses. I'd prefer to see full bore, but whatever. I'll make do with what I got.
The web of heresy and corruption is spun by powerful beings and perverted minds. Hunt their leaders, and this construct of evil will come crashing down.
See, if I could find a really good Weird Vein staff, the improved criticals almost makes me want to build a crit build. Just to see what I can pull off. Because I think I could do something wild. I just don't know. That is one complaint I do have. This game, compared to Diablo, you can, outside of like set gear, you can get away with testing out any build you really want. There are some legendary effects that you have to find for improving builds. Witch Doctor, there was a ring that gave you like more dogs, and one that gave you like the big abomination guy you could summon like 2 of them that are reduced capability, even though they're just fine. And I would essentially run around with like 5 to I think 7 summons active at once, just tanking everything. But it was very few things that were like, oh, this ability is hard to get, and it really wasn't even like a ring is hard to find, because there were so many ways to farm gear. This, I think part of it is a lot of the abilities are very specialized. Or some of them are specialized and some of them aren't. But there's so many tokens. Berserk tokens, Enraged tokens, Focus State. It's a lot of stuff that's just not useful. Like, yeah, am I even getting Enraged tokens? Like, what's going on here? I am getting... Hang on a second, we gotta look at this. Chance to get... Oh, okay, yeah. That's gonna suck. Enraged tokens on kill, but I expend enraged expend rage tokens on hit. So I'm getting good damage briefly. When I'm fighting things at my level, I do fine. But when I'm taking, 72% damage penalty, I'm not really able to hold my own here. Yeah, that's definitely a problem. I might have to switch off the Enrage build then, if it's gonna kind of fall apart, unless I can get one that's on hit. If I could get an on hit get tokens, I would be very solid. But I think this is kind of the problem, is I'm running into just hitting the wall. And the thing is, it's not even like I can just be like, oh, well, I'll just shove whatever new relic I have. Because that's not really conducive in this situation. And especially when with this class, I have to keep an eye out on, like, do you get abilities that boost poison damage? Yeah, I could get a relic that gives me, one booster buff, but if it includes like 2 or 3 things that are like, oh, bonus on poison skill hit, I don't have that. I'm sitting on a wasted slot. Oh, Wraithlord. Magical. This can only go well. I don't even remember what abilities I have that are armor breaking.
Inquisitor, electrospectral scanning revealed info fragments of high importance in close proximity.
capability.
Oh, info fragments, cool.
Is eternal.
So that's another bit of info on one of the item chests. Ah, right there.
Blessed scanning psalms have been executed and indicate essential info fragments, Inquisitor. Data has been inloaded.
Oh, that was one of the guys I need to hunt. I guess that's okay. I mean, sucks having to fight them, but if that's what I have to fight... Oh, it's another Wraith Lord. You know, I'm surprised we haven't had... Like, I'm surprised Games Workshop hasn't tried to do more, like, cross-promotional stuff. Like, you know how they had, I think, World of Warships? They did a deal where they had a Chaos and a Imperial style ship and commander and all that. And I think they did it with World of Tanks. They only work with Gaijin, it seems. Because, yeah, I think it was World of Tanks also had like a not a Land Raider, like a Predator tank, I think. The idea is cool. I mean, realistically, if they really, really wanted to, they could easily take, because I think, no, it's War Thunder guys did Enlisted. But they could easily do like a version of Enlisted, but it's 40K.
Damnation is eternal.
But I feel like they wouldn't get as good, I think, player attention if they kept their monetization model, because it's kind of stupid. I honestly think just pay for a full game and then unlocks, and with like its unlocks and stuff just through XP, and then a cash shop for cosmetics would probably be their best bet. Because people will be like, oh, I want my Chaos Space Marines to look really like Death Guard instead of just standard, generic-looking CSM in Death Guard colors. And I mean, a game like that, you could easily do a bunch of fancy, unique characters like Typhus and all of that. You know, limited to only like one person can play as them at a time kind of deals. But they'd have to figure out melee. Yay, we're done! Yeah, difficulty now is 9. 319%. I'm not looking forward to this at all. This is gonna be hell.
The enemies of the Imperium are infinite, and such a vast threat can only be fought with ingenuity. Kill the Masters, and you will render a sea of vermin helpless.
6 spore assists? Ugh. I don't like this at all. I mean, look at how tanky, like, basic Raveners and, like, Termagants and Hormagaunts are. If I'm sitting here just, like, mag dumping into a Hormagaunt, I am screwed. It's taking at 3 full attacks to kill a Hormagaunt. The Rippers are surviving. What am I supposed to do when the Rippers survive? Like I've said, I wish there was proper, like, torment levels to this game. Because 1 or 2 levels being the difference between you can one-shot garbage and having garbage just 8 hits is just absurd. Me dealing only 13%, not 12.9% damage of what I can normally deal, while I take 3 times the damage. You know, look at me and tell me that is a fair, like, distribution of damage. Like I said, it should have been, like, other modifiers. Oh yeah, physical damage. I forget I deal that. I guess I could pour more into physical. Look at this. I nearly died just trying to fight this guy and 1 Ravener. And the game's just like, yeah, go fight 6 spore assists that are going to be surrounded by crap. And I think spore assists either summon stuff or they start running. Floating. But you know what I mean. They flee. And I forgot to mention this, I switched my... I switched to Spoil Warden's... No, that's not it. The Inoculator, that's why I switched. So, more shield charge gain for every point of Warp Heat spent. So, I'm spending a lot of Warp Heat here. It's one of those times I'm glad I don't have the Warp Heat cost reduction abilities. I need all the cost I can muster. At this point I wish I had cooldown reduction. I want to be able to sit here and just spam this stuff. One of these guys looks at me funny and I can just like move my thumb in a circle hitting buttons. Yeah, like the summons. I just get immediately bogged down because there's one warrior. Yeah, he's taking 300 total, if that, per burst. If I crit. I guess I could keep pouring into AoE just to stack the range of my shield. Or not my shield, my fire ring.
No pity.
Yay. Yeah, and opening chests and not getting any syringes. I don't know what's up with that. But I'm not happy about it. Oh, I saw a video. This guy was asking, effectively, Zoomers what they thought, like, the meaning of life was, and if they thought society was collapsing. I'm like, you're asking people. One of them, they're like, okay, how old are you? And the guy's like, oh, I'm 15. I'm like, wait, you really expect a 15-year-old to have an answer for the meaning of life? Or trust their view on whether they think society's collapsing? And of course they're in LA, so half the people they asked were just the most vapid people. I mean, it was painful to listen to some of their responses. And it's like, to me, I always find, oh, not going that way. I'm not fighting the Toxicrin, is he after me still? Because I'd rather not fight a Toxicrin at this difficulty. I'd rather just circumvent them. Like, there was a couple of people who were, like, in college who actually had decent views on things. You know, when asked, like, is society collapsing? And one of the guys is like, yeah, I mean, it's always falling away to something new. And I was like, see, that is a person who seems to have their head on their shoulders. Because that is an arguably a pretty nuanced take to have. And I think it's honestly the best way to describe it. Yes, society is always going to feel like it's collapsing. You know, things are always going on. Things you may not like, things you may like. Things change. That's inevitable. The question becomes, do you adapt to the situation or just keep struggling against it? Sometimes you do have to rail against things that are bad, you know, things that you may think are causing a decay. Sometimes, you know, things just kind of fall apart. It happens. I mean, from a greater societal standpoint, you look at, like, look at Rome. Before Rome, you had city-states and general chaos. Then you had order, then Rome fell, you fell back into chaos. After a while, Byzantium formed. While not nearly as large, it brought some order. From there, Byzantium fell, and we had, you know, the Renaissance, effectively. And through that and into the First World War, you had conflict and chaos, and eventually we reached a point where things like the UN were formed, and while not perfect, they did bring back a semblance of order. So it's like, in the end, with order comes chaos, and with chaos comes order. They're two sides of the same coin, and at the end of the day, they're inevitable. You can't have one without the other. You must always experience both. But it was, in the end, it was an interesting bit to think about, but they were focused on, like, people saying screw it and living in the VR world and essentially kind of going full-on Ready Player One, which I just can never see that happening, simply because you would have to stop at points to eat or go to the bathroom or do whatever, so you'd have to experience reality. You know, you can't hide away forever. It's simply impossible. And honestly, I think the analogy of Ready Player One is used far too often. I've seen it used by, like, crypto bros and stuff when they're trying to shill their own products, and it's one of those things where I don't think anybody actually understands what they're saying, so they're just like, yeah, it's a buzzword people think of when they hear, like, metaverse, so yeah, it's gonna be like that, and it's like, that... It's like when people use 1984 incorrectly. You know, oh, I couldn't, you know, shit in a urinal at the Wendy's. It's just like 1984. Like, no, that's not at all like it. Just don't do that. It just bugs me when people use those kind of terms and the ideas associated with them incorrectly. Because it doesn't represent things right. You know, I thought the video, they should have focused more on, in general, the fact we have this younger generation who, for the most part, grew up with the internet. You know, they've eternally had it. And, you know, it would take a lot more work, but I'd like to see, you know, the psychological effects, sociological effects, how this is affecting these people. Because I didn't grow up with the internet. You know, some of my friends had not dial-up. I did. Only like one computer that could work it. You know, I used to go play outside with other kids in the neighborhood. And I feel like, to a degree, it does make me seem like some grumpy boomer. Where it's like, oh, kids these days just play their fork knife, and it's like, to a degree they kind of do. But it's like, they still play outside, you know? Kids are kids. But I do think there is, you know, the internet does have an effect on things. Ah, yes, I'm targeting the Zoanthrope. It says I'm targeting the Zoanthrope. Allow me to target everybody else. I really wish the devs would reassess whatever is doing that. Like, oh, you want to just target whatever's close to you with this ability? It's like, no, I want to target what I'm targeting. You know, I repositioned myself so I could attack the thing. And I died. Cool. We're halfway there, though. That's the important part.
That's our last shot. Don't fail the Imperium.
I can afford... I can make it. It's just gonna be annoying and difficult. Is there guardsmen there I can recruit? Because that's gonna make a big difference. Yay, Chaos Spawn is still here. You know, I think it'd be cool if they gave these guys like a timer. So it's like, hey, you don't get XP. They're just around to harass you until they die. by your hand or by their just innate decay. Because it still retains the threat, and on lower difficulties, they're gonna die quick anyways, so that timer's not gonna kick in. But on higher difficulties, it's more likely to kick in and actually happen.
Located. Current order. Find and destroy enemy relay station.
Or I love how I'm like looking back targeting, but the game's like, no, you can't like turn back and attack the enemy. You have to just keep running forward and cast in front of you. It's like, are you sure about that? You sure I can't just turn? Oh look, another chaos spawn. I said it before, Chaos Bane did a good job in actually giving each Chaos God their own Chaos spawn with their own effects. It made fighting them really interesting, because it was like, oh, you know, depending on the region, what am I fighting now? Get all the debuffs and hopefully just fry him. Okay, this was not the command post they were talking about. I was really hoping it was. Oh, that Voxcaster. I think. Yep.
Successful. Early estimations show significant reduction in Imperial losses. The Emperor protects.
Yeah, I feel like if I could just keep my cooldowns low, I could keep cycling and keeping a shield up. Right now I think that's the spot I'm hung up on. I also wish those guardsmen would have followed me, but whatever. Guess we're going no guardsmen. We're doing this the hard way then. It just sucks because I get pushed so far back that by the time I get there, his spawns are already back up. Run, 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 and I lost. Cool.
The burden of failure is the most terrible punishment of all.
That sucks. I just really don't know where to take this build. Honestly, I haven't a clue. I'd like some easier ones instead of all these high-end ones, but okay, whatever. But that is all for now. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit the like button. It helps out the channel a lot. If you haven't already, make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.